Now, you ready to roll? Yes. I'd like to call this meeting of the Tabernacle Township Committee to order. Please join me in saluting the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce Natalie Lewis, who's going to be pinch hitting for Sean Barber tonight.
Reading of the Sunshine Notice, this meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of May 23rd was included in the list of notices sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and the Courier Post. Posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Present.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mrs. Brandon?
Here.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. At this time, we're open up the meeting to public comment on agenda items only. There are two opportunities to be heard this evening. One is now and then later in the meeting. And if you're interested in being heard this evening, please raise your hand. I will call on you. Come to the side of the room underneath the microphone somewhere. Does the room move or is it just me?
No, it's there.
Over there.
Yeah, but are there more seats on that side than there are on that side?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
A little drip.
Yeah, something's going on. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wind is blowing.
Yeah, it's blowing that way. Either that or the building's leaning that way, one or the other. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
See that you sorts of bottles?
Yes. I have a question regarding Resolution 2016-75 regarding the sign at TRS. When was the request for the resolution made?
That request was made before last meeting. I forgot to transpose that over to Sean to put it on the agenda. So it's my fault that it did not make the agenda.
And was that submitted, how was that request made? In writing?
I think we have it in writing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was initially made in writing or I know I was told and I was asked to put it on there. And then we asked for writing after that.
Okay, well, I guess my overall concern is that all of these organizations really should be treated the same. There's certainly enough communication, or should be enough communication between the TRS and the administrator, and vice versa, that something like this should be handled in the ordinary course and on time. That the sign went up, and it's only after the fact that the resolution is requested, suggests that that structure isn't working the way it should. If the signs, one of the signs is right out in front and can't be missed, is sort of surprising that no one seemed to be aware of it until I called earlier. I also raised the question of political signs. I know that in approving these types of signs, like the TRS, the PTA, TAA, the committee considers commercial signs really broadly, includes all those types of signs as off-premise commercial signs. And given that so many, or some in particular, political signs are actually blocking the visibility of the signs that those organizations have come to the trouble to ask for approval of, and which you've approved, it strikes me that the same regulatory and safety, public safety concerns regarding traffic apply to those signs, meaning the political signs, as to the, I'll call it community event signs. And since these signs are all going in the right-of-way where the motoring public is, I would have the greatest concern for safety, I think that the committee in the future should consider putting in a spacing requirement, or simply a requirement that says you can't block someone else's sign. Because if there is the blockage of a sign, and there's a Coolidge and Littlewood sign out there that blocks a, I think it's a Seneca sign, then you're creating the same safety problem that you've tried to avoid in the first place. by putting in the few requirements that you do put in. That's it regarding signs. Regarding bill lists,
Sir, before you go on, can I ask a question? Does our ordinance call for placement of the signs themselves? Like, do we have a like in the ordinance, do we have a designated area where
I
signs
think
go?
we have a space, there's supposed to be space behind the cartway. And I had this discussion with Stuart today about the distance, and forgive me for not remembering the exact, but I think it's somewhere between 5 and 6 foot back away from the road. The problem is not all of that is right away at any given time. So we've not, most of the signs that are out there are within that instead of beyond it. And it's never been a huge issue, particularly, and if it has been, we've addressed it by moving them at a particular location. It's an enforcement issue for us. We don't have the manpower to be riding around checking on signs and still doing the rest of the work that we need to get done.
Yeah, I'm thinking from the standpoint of, you know, like if we had designated areas that we went and picked out, like around town, like down by the Patty Road,
Would you speak
or
louder?
532, or, I don't want to yell at you.
You're not yelling, I just can't hear.
Line.
You can't have conversations, that's the problem, we can't hear you. I can't hear you back there.
Okay. Well, the good part is we're being recorded. My point is, I wonder if we ought to look at the ordinance, because does it cover political signs? Because I don't allow those out right now.
It does not.
Okay.
And the practice has been since at least 29 years, if not longer, that we don't touch political signs unless they are blocking or causing a problem in the right of way and a sight triangle. And most of the signs that are out there now are the lower, smaller signs that don't have that issue. In particular, years ago when you had a 4x4 sheet up there, some of that placement became an issue a couple of times years ago. But that doesn't seem to be the type of sign that anybody's putting up now. They're all putting small plastic signs up. So that doesn't seem to be a major issue in that.
I guess what I'm getting at is I wonder if we ought to look at that ordinance, but have specific areas where the signs can go and not be in the right of way, not be in the sight line, and have it structured to where they're not on top of each other. Because you've got Seneca, like right now, I've been paying a lot of attention to signs lately. But Seneca's got one out, St. Mary Lakes had one out, TA's got one out. They're just all over the place. What I'm wondering is if we all look at the ordinance and say, hey, these are designated sign areas. And then that way, people that are buying the signs, the nonprofits for the most part, they're buying the signs, know how many they need because they can go in a particular area and everyone knows to look there for whatever sign is going on.
You're going to deal with them in the right of way because you really don't have any right to deal with them outside the right of way other than the commercial sign ordinance.
Right.
Because especially political signs, when you get off the right of way, you become amended, right? And the ACLU will be.
It's a whole different.
It's a whole different story and a whole different thing that we try to stay out of. And years ago, we moved some signs. We threatened to be sued, and that was not the intention. It was a right-of-way issue or a tribal issue for us, and we seemed to work through that. But that was, the 99-2000 era when that occurred. So.
Okay, I don't think it would hurt to look at it. Stuart, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Further comment on that, I'm sure you'll consult with Mr. Lang on that, but that's my 2 cents. If you start differentiating on the content, based on the content of the sign, you introduce another level of complexity into your sign regulation. There's a certain nice flexibility that you have in the broad interpretation of all of these signs as off-premise commercial signs. It's such a broad interpretation, you can fit a lot in it. Moving on. On the bill list, there are 9 different charges for attendance to the NJEPA conference. They're all $90 except for one that's $238.04. I'd like to know, what is this conference, and Was it possible for 2 or 3 people to attend and bring the information back so that the others could share it? What's the procedure for approving those 9 people to attend? Was that procedure followed? And regarding the TRS contract for executive session, I'd like to know what the timetable for that contract is. Will there be an opportunity for public comment? Will residents be able to talk with the chiefs of both organizations, which was planned when the subcommittee report reported? Will we be able to do that before we have to make comments, before we're presented with a contract, so that those questions and those answers can inform the discussion of the contract?
Well, the meeting with the chiefs that we talked about, we are going to do that, probably we'll do that at the June meeting, or at the end of the June meeting. The committee has not had an opportunity to be able to look at the contract. We received it this week. We're going to go into an exec and discuss it, and I can tell you some pieces of it, perhaps later on in the meeting, but to answer your question, there will absolutely be public comment on it, and we can probably do that on the 23rd.
Will that occur after the meeting with the chiefs?
We could probably do it at the same time. It all depends on how the discussion goes in exact time with the contract. We have to start there because the committee has not discussed the contract at all.
Understood. All right, thank you. Thanks.
Any other comments from the public at this time, Mrs. Brooks?
Thank you. Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. I'd like to return to the Tabernacle Rescue Squad, Resolution 2016-75. It just seems somewhat silly to me to retroactively approve a resolution for an event that has already been done. I understand that mistakes are made, but it can set a precedent that is an unpredictable precedent. A lot of people can go out and entities can go put signs up, and then they suddenly learn that they were supposed to have an approved resolution to do that, these small, what they call bandit signs, and then they come in and say, oh, please, can we have permission, even though you're granting it retroactively. It's a bad precedent. At this point, the event is over. The Tabernacle Rescue Squad, I think there were members at the last meeting. If it wasn't on the resolution, they had an opportunity to bring it up, and they never brought it up. They never raised the issue at the meeting. This makes it, by approving it, you're making it a very political issue rather than just making it a plain, straightforward governmental issue. You treat everybody the same. The entities have to come in for an approved resolution, which I'm sure would be rightfully granted. That wouldn't be a problem. So I just think it looks bad, it looks political, and it really should be purely governmental, a governmental decision. So that's my position on approving this resolution retroactively. I mean, you know, going forward, the rescue squad some representative from the rescue squad should make sure who's been at meetings. I know Mr. Steve Kramer's was at the last meeting. I'm sure he knew the signs were going up. He could have said something to the committee, hey, put in for a resolution and I don't see it on the agenda. You know, I just want to remind you that it's here, and I'm sure that Mr. Kramer would have picked up on that. The other thing that I want to point out is, I just like to, and this is a legal issue, when you start differentiating by content, and I think, Mayor, you're right to say you need to revisit the sign ordinance, because you are explicitly differentiating by content, because all those signs are the same size. And when you start doing that, you're wading into First Amendment problems. You've got a First Amendment violation, frankly. And so I think that it would behoove the committee to straighten up the sign ordinance and make adjustments for these signs and sweep political signs under there, and then set up the provisions, and Stuart has some ideas, about that. So I just wanted to bring up that content issue with regard to the First Amendment and why bother doing a resolution. As The other thing that, well, Stuart already covered it, and that has to do with these 9 registrations, and I think he has some really substantive questions about them. And, you know, I would hope that you would take a look at this, because we're suffering from some, you know, we're having to turn ourselves into pretzels to get a budget passed, and to keep taxes lower, and I have to wonder, by 9 people applying for attending a conference, why there can't be some organization and decisions, you know, written provisions on procedures for how conferences are handled. I don't know if it's Mr. Kramer who approves all of the registrations. I don't think I've ever seen them come before the committee. So it must be that there's got to be some kind of line between, for example, in this case, the Colonel Lowe and Mr. Kramer, and there should be some written provision for allowing, for deciding, really, the procedure for deciding.
I'll get that addressed in a second. Do you have anything else?
I think that is all. There was one person whose the cost was $238 versus $90, and it wasn't clear why that is.
Okay.
Maybe you could elucidate
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Before we go to the next person for comment, did you want to touch on that?
I can touch on all of that.
Go right ahead.
First of all, let's start with the signs. We have done this before. We have done it for Seneca organizations a number of times where they haven't gotten here when their signs have gone up initially, and we've chose to approve them after the signs have already been up. So that's not a new precedent. It's not political. It's a mistake that I made, and for whatever reason, they can just, Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Brooks can accuse me of whatever they want to, but it was a legitimate mistake that I let it slip through the cracks, probably because I was working on an Oprah request dealing with 2 years of trash disposal, but that was also at the same time. So that could have been part of the reason that it happened. As far as the conference, first of all, it is funded out of the FEMA grant, which all the volunteers who went volunteered their time in order to qualify for that grant, and that funding was developed by their labor of being in here and working during the storm and working after the storm. So they developed that funding for their own conference to go to. And Colonel Lowe talked to me about it, and I'm perfectly fine with certain members going to the conference, and whether 1 goes or 9 goes, if they have an interest and they can bring back some information that helps this community and their volunteering spirit, I would greatly appreciate that. And given that it does not affect our budget, and it was developed out of FEMA money, which came from their labor, which in other years they were not paid for. FEMA didn't used to pay for volunteer labor in a storm, but this past time they did. I thought it was a wise use of that funding to give back to the volunteers who actually got the township the funding back to do that. We did not, the additional funding that was there for the labor that we paid for in public works will go back into the budget. So that money will go back into the budget, and the money developed by the volunteers will be spent on the volunteers. The difference between the $90 and the $238 is $148 for the registration of the Pinelands CERT website, which you have to do with a credit card, and their member chose to charge it for that. The same as you did for me the previous month when I did the .gov website for the township. So if you look at last month's bill, there's a website reimbursement for myself because I used my card to pay for it and was reimbursed, and the same thing was here with Mr. Lyon.
Your own credit card.
Yes. So he did the same. So we reimbursed him.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may add to that, I've been a part of the New Jersey Emergency Preparedness Conference working for the utility since its inception
It was started by the New Jersey State Police. They have three emergency offices throughout the state. And of course, that was pre-911. And I can tell you that it is a very well-attended conference. You can go online and you can look at all the courses. It's a 5-day conference, and they have courses from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. I know Colonel Lowe goes to the conference. The value of the courses are phenomenal, what they learn down there. And the expertise that they gain from being at that conference. I'll tell you, it's not like the League of Municipality where there's parties. It is a true conference with true courses that you take Monday to Friday afternoon. And on Friday afternoon, unfortunately this year it rained, at Bader Field they had a static display of emergency equipment there. So it's not just the knowledge that they gain, it is a mini conference. It's at the Tropicana, and every vendor that provides emergency response equipment, whether it's radios, whatever it is related to emergency response is there. And since it does come through a FEMA grant, it is in our best interest to get our folks down there and get them trained.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other members of the public at this time? Jason?
Hi, Jason Lidowitz, Hertfordshire Court. First, Mr. Kramer and Mr. Barton, thank you for those explanations. It sounds like that was money very well spent. Regarding Resolution 2016-72, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, that line number 2 said emergency temporary appropriations will be provided for in the 2016 budget. I take it that means that this money that you're seeking to appropriate is not above and beyond the budget, and that had the budget been approved by now, that you would need this. Is that the statement?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public. Motion to approve the bills, please.
Roll call, Mr. Barton.
Because let's get through.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. That's all good. We'll do 2 motions and then we'll talk about it. Mrs. Brown is the first, has made the motion. Need a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown, or Mr. Barton. Mr. Brown's probably home on the couch. Mrs. Brown, Mr. Barton, first and second. Any discussion on the bills? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Yates.
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. Next 2 items we have are approval of minutes for April 11th, 2016, work session. And we also have April 25th, 2016, regular session. And you need to split these up. Any questions or comments? Need a motion, please? First motion is made by Mr. Yates. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Second is Mr. Franzen. We will combine these April 11th and April 25th regular work session. So we're doing one vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Yates.
Yes, Mr. Yates.
Mayor Lee.
Yes, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the municipal budget, Resolution 2016-72, adopting emergency temporary appropriations. Excuse me. Need a motion and a second. Tell you what, let's backtrack a second. Terry, can you in detail discuss the emergency appropriations and why we're doing this? So actually, let's do it for motion first. Can we have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Franzen, second. Second. Mrs. Brown. Terry?
We had a temporary budget that we were allowed to do of 26.26% of the last year's budget. Since we didn't adopt, I just did one extra month just in case anything came up that we needed to pay for before we adopt. So that's all that this thing.
We're approaching the finish of the budget process, so that's good. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor, I did have a comment on this.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that when we first introduced the budget, one of my comments was that I was not in favor of any appropriations to the Tabernacle Rescue Squad until we had a contract in place. I am glad to see that tonight we're going to be discussing a contract with the Tabernacle Rescue Squad. And I know there are some other outstanding items, and I'm glad you brought up that, you know, the report that you and Deputy Mayor Jovier presented, which we had a public testimony on, and we had tried to schedule the professionals in here from both fire, EMS, and OEM, is going to take place in June, it sounds like. So we'll get that report behind us and be able to get all the public comments answered on that, and we'll be able to talk about our opinions on that. But again, I just need to reiterate that I was not in favor of providing any appropriations until we had that contract in place.
Duly noted.
Have an update. Line items are in there, we'll do an update
Thanks
For the first quarter.
for the first.
We got a bill yet?
We don't have,
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Resolution 2016-73, resolution to rescind municipal budget amendment 2016-68. Need a motion and a second, and we're going to put Kevin Frenier on the stage.
So moved.
Need a second, please? Mrs. Brown made the motion. Need a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Franzen. Mr. Frenier.
Mayor, if I could, the April 25th meeting, the state had reviewed our budget, and they had requested a $1,100 amendment to the budget. I prepared that amendment. It was on the agenda that evening. Then we then went back and reworked the budget again to cut taxes a little bit lower. I mistakenly, when I prepared the second amendment to reduce some of those line items, I mistakenly had thought that the first amendment I prepared in April had been adopted, the $1,100 change the state had requested. Therefore, the second resolution that I put together was based on the first resolution, the $1,100 change having been made. And when I reviewed it with LaShawn, I found out that we had not passed the initial $1,100 resolution, which would make the second resolution we presented incorrect. So what I'm asking you to do tonight is to rescind 1668 and then pass the amendment that I prepared tonight, which is the exact same amendment that you passed at the last meeting with the $1,600 or $1,100 change that the state requested. And I apologize for that. I mistakenly thought that resolution was passed, but that was incorrect.
Do I understand that we have 3 days where we can?
Yeah, you have to re-advertise that, and you have to have it advertised for at least 3 days.
Okay. Does that mean we can do it Thursday?
Yeah, that means we can't get it in the paper till Thursday.
Can't get it paper.
Okay, when's the soonest we can do it?
3 business days, so you got it in Thursday, Friday, you could do it. I guess you could do it Monday.
No, you can't, Monday's holiday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so Tuesdays are always good.
Yeah, I mean, the county hasn't, I don't believe the county's adopted their budget. I don't know if they've introduced it or not, so tax, there's probably not as much hurry as there is normally to get the budget passed, because I don't believe the county's adopted their budget yet, so nothing's really gonna happen until they get their budget passed.
But I called the various committee members to let them know about our conversation on Friday morning. We all pretty much, everyone I talked to we're all pretty consistently want it done.
Yeah.
Want it done and off.
And again, I apologize, it was a
That's,
mistake.
hey, mistakes happen. It's okay. Mistakes happen. Okay, need a roll call vote, please, on 2016-73.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Next resolution is 2016-74, approval of the municipal budget amendment that Kevin just spoke of. Need a first and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Yates, need a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Roll call?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. With that being said, folks, when do we want to do the meeting?
Tuesday is okay with me.
Is Tuesday enough time?
Tuesday enough time?
Okay, it goes in, it can't go into
Which paper do you use?
Rowan County Times, the earliest can be in is Thursday. Does Thursday count as a day?
Yeah, I would think so.
It's in the paper.
Yeah. Thursday, Friday, Monday, I think you're fine.
You can't do Monday. Monday's a holiday.
Or Tuesday.
So Tuesday, so you can't do it until Wednesday?
Is it calendar days?
I would think you could do it Tuesday, but defer to people.
It's the budget call, right?
Yeah, it has to be advertised 3 days prior to the hearing.
Greetings prior to the hearing. So if you're not going to get it until Thursday, that's Thursday, Friday,
Tuesday.
Wednesday would be the day.
Wednesday's fine.
Wednesday, Joe, what do you think?
That's June 1st?
That's June 1st. That sound about right?
So let me understand this correctly. You're saying that a weekend cannot be considered a day?
It has to be advertised.
Business day.
It's business days.
Advertising is a key piece of it.
Advertising.
Saturday is a business day.
No, it's not.
Not in state law.
Not the state, not the state law, it's not. Monday through Friday.
Well, the Burlington County Times doesn't have a Saturday paper, they have a Friday Saturday paper. It's one paper. Does that count as 2 days?
It's very creative, though. It's very
That used to be
creative.
a paper boy, pay attention to this stuff.
If we had a barbecue at my house, could we have a meeting down there on Monday?
Only advertising.
As long as we advertise it.
You pay for the hot dogs.
That's right. That's right. So do we want to do Wednesday, 1st of June?
I'm fine.
Whatever. Can't be a bond. Okay. All right, 7:30, Wednesday, June 1st, will be our budget amendment hearing. And we will adopt the budget.
It's on the amendment only.
And it will be
On the amendment only.
On the amendment.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Now you got that? Okay.
So there will be no other business, so we know how to print that.
There will be no other business. Yeah, budget. We're out of it. On the amendments only. Yeah, no surprise, no, yeah, that's it. Doesn't prevent the committee from having any other discussion about other topics, but discussion is the word I use.
Yeah, it doesn't, you have to say that if you're going to discuss other things, in all fairness to the public, you'd have to indicate that it's your intention to have general discussions or otherwise deal with any issues. If you're going to limit it to a particular budget and that only source of business, then the meeting would have to be dedicated and limited to only that source of business.
So we can't sit in front of the court on that.
Well, you can talk about how your wife's asparagus was, and you can do this and that, but you can't talk about any of the other public's business.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. Okay. Next item on the agenda is second reading of ordinance 2016-3, an ordinance of the Township of Tabernacle, County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 12, Streets and Sanitation, Section 12.1, excavation of streets by adding Section 12.111. Permits not to be issued on streets improved within 5 years. We have discussed this once already. We had a little dialogue about it. Need a motion, please.
Make the motion.
Need a second. At this time, we will open this second reading of the ordinance to the public. Anyone interested, please raise your hand. I'll call you. Mrs. Brooks, come on up.
Fran Brooks, West Middle Road. I just wanted to ask, because at the last meeting, we talked about, I raised the issue of the phrase less than 5 years. And I want to know, and Mr. Barton explained to me that it was a 5-year moratorium, which, you know, if you, the way I looked at it was that 5 years is equivalent to 1,845 days. So if you wanted to, if you really wanted to, I know you're laughing, Mr. Language, but I'm looking at the language, if you really wanted to be precise, and the ordinance is really, the language of the ordinances should be as precise as we can make it, because this is such a slippery business to begin with. But assuming we don't include the leap year, 5 full years would be 1,825 days. 4 years would be 1,460. And if somebody came in, if you didn't say 5, what's this
If
language?
anybody wants to count the leap year, they got too much time on their hands.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't bother.
You're lucky they're not
Less
counting
than-
just business days.
That's true.
Less than 5 years could mean literally 1,460 days for 4 full years, plus, just to take a number out of the hat, 20 more days. And they would be in compliance with this ordinance. This isn't the ordinance, but they would be in compliance with it. So if you really mean 5 full years, that 1,825 days, I think you should say, you should revise this less than 5 years statement. And it should be 5 full years or less. Okay, if that's what you mean.
Okay.
And I thought I heard, Mr. Barton, when you said it's a moratorium for 5 years, and that would mean 5 full years. So I'm just saying, if you really want to be more precise, that you probably should be more precise and probably write it so that you literally mean 5 full years. That's that.
Okay.
And not including the leap year, of
Okay.
course, but you have to include leap years, so I think you can figure it out, okay?
Okay.
That's my only
Thank you
comment.
very much.
Otherwise, you're gonna be in trouble. You might get into trouble if the number of days isn't precise, okay?
Thank you.
Well, wouldn't it be kind of similar to the situation where you didn't even have the ordinance and somebody comes in and there's no way you can regulate that street opening?
Don't street finishing projects have like a birthday? So it's like 5 birthdays at least.
Okay,
I
well,
couldn't-
maybe,
I just don't, I don't
well,
agree.
less
I think
than
it's very
5
clear.
years though could be,
If an application is applied for, less than 5 years, from the
what
time
if,
that the surface was paved or improved, they don't get a permit.
well, what if it ended up being in the middle of that 5th year? So are you talking about 1,800 and whatever these days is, or it could be something less than 5 full
Well,
years?
we heard your comments. I want to,
Okay.
thank you, Mrs. Brooks. I want to go down to Joe for a second, because this is also part of his baby. Joe, you have any comments on that?
So the intention was a full 5 years that anyone would not be permitted to, hold a permit unless they met the exceptions that are listed below. I would defer to our attorney whether legally it says 5 full years or does it say less than 5 years? And if it says less than, that was not the intention. The intention was 5 full years. They would not get a permit to open a road that was paved.
It states, no permit shall be issued to any person which would allow an excavation or opening in a street surface which was paved or improved less than 5 years prior to the date of the application. That clearly says you don't get a permit if it hasn't been 5 years since the road was improved.
So if it's August 1st that the road was finished and accepted, you couldn't get a permit for 5 August 1st for 5 years. You couldn't get it until August 2nd, until 5 years had passed. I mean, to me, that sounds pretty clear, really.
I think the key word is application, right? Is that if you go by the application date and it's less than 5 years, you don't get a permit.
No person shall get a permit unless the road was paved or improved, or an opening in a street surface which was paved or improved less than 5 years prior to the date of the application.
The application date's the key piece there. So if you apply for application August 1st, 5 years, 5 August 1st, which happens to be my wedding anniversary, just in case anybody was wondering. It was good pick. This one.
Just as long as you...
So August 1st is the birthday, essentially.
So, all right, so the way I'm reading this then, the way I'm hearing it is, the application date is different than the approval date. I could file my application and not get
Less than
approval.
5 years prior to the date of the application. So you're saying you want to nail down the time of the road improvement?
Time of day, you mean?
Well, what I'm getting at is let's say, like Stephen said, the application was presented August 1st. But approval never happened until September.
The acceptance, not the approval. The acceptance of the road.
Yeah, the acceptance.
That becomes the anniversary date for the approval. So in our case here with Medford Lakes Road, we still haven't accepted it because they're still making punch line repairs.
Okay, so
And they'll be back to
we
more.
incorporate that into this acceptance?
We could say no permit shall be issued to any person which will allow an excavation or opening in a road, opening in a street surface which was paved or improved and accepted less than 5 years prior to the date of the application.
That works. Did you go to law school?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Yates.
Any other comments on this? Okay. Any other comments of the public this time? We'll shut down the public hearing on the ordinance. Gentlemen, nice work. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yeah.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. We did have a first and second.
Yeah, we did. Thank you. Joe, and
Resolution 2016-75, authorizing the placement of temporary signs in the public right-of-way, Tabernacle Rescue Squad. I think this is kind of a silly ordinance because it's a silly resolution because it's come and gone. But I did go to the event, as a matter of fact. I think the message here is that we need to get, if anyone wants to put signs out, we need to have a process followed. And Mr. Kramer's already indicated what transpired in this case. Need a couple motions if we're going to do this. I'll ask for a first.
I'll make it.
Mr. Franzen makes the motion. Need a second, please?
Second.
Second, Mr. Barton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes.
Thank you.
If I can, I truly understand what the Brooks are saying. Whether or not it makes precedence or not, Doug's already explained that. I mean, we should follow proper protocol, and I agree, mistakes do happen. I mean, it was an event that was well attended, and I'm sure there was no intent or malice by doing it. So, that's all I have to say.
Resolution 2016-76, approving the street opening permit for Fort Spring Drive. Need a motion from, Mr. Yates has made the motion. Need a second, please?
I will second the last resolution for street opening permits.
I was wondering if you were going to do that or not, because I was going to make reference to that. I want to thank Mr. Barton specifically for spearheading this, and also LaShawn and Doug as well for getting this process kind of behind us, and also Mr. Guzzi as well. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Reports. Mr. Guzzi.
Just a few quick updates. As you all know, the Parks project, last year's Park project is all finished up now. Mainly the dugouts. We're also working currently on the 2016 Parks project, which is the tennis courts, crickets, mill. Actually 2015. Yes, 2015. 15 grant. 2015 grant, but the project is 2016 Park project. Yes. As well as preparing the cost estimates for the next round of county grant applications year two. Also, the road program for this year, which includes Bud Court and several other roads, we're just finishing up and hope to be able to get out to bid within the next week or so. So we'll be in touch with you about that. And I think that's it.
Roads we're looking at for this would be Fox Chase and Sleepy Hollow.
Right, and Bud Court.
Bud Court. So they would be the 3 roads that would be working out of previous capital.
Did you need that letter from the Oak Shade Road refusal? The Oak Shade Road grant?
Yeah.
I got a copy.
You have a copy of that?
I got it.
You need it?
You have it?
Yeah, it's here.
They sent you a copy? Good, because I shredded mine this afternoon. Thanks, Dan. Well, I want, as long as you and Doug have that, that's fine. That's important. Anything else for Dan? Doug?
It's that time of year again. The Pine Barrens Festival has, the church has requested 2 nominations for their service award for Tabernacle Township. They would like to have them in by the 27th, which will be our next meeting. So if you would give that some thought among the committee and offer a suggestion by the next meeting, be greatly appreciated by the church.
So by the June 1 meeting, Doug, or the June official meeting?
The official meeting. I have been working with the Burlington County Municipal JIF and the county's solicitor's office to finalize amended agreement for the parade route. Paul Miola from the JIF has worked with the solicitor's office to come up with an acceptable amendment to the identification agreement. We have processed that and sent that on to them, and Secretary to Carl Buck has emailed me, said they will be looking at it and getting back to us if there's any needed change, but everything seems to be moving along on that front. We also have a letter from Judy Sayre from Cub Scout Pack 439 to do their planning for the Community Day in the fall. They'd like someone to attend their Wednesday meeting on June 8th to go over, I guess, setting a date and discussing participation in that. If there's a committee member who would like to go, please let me know here shortly. I believe that's all I have. Other than saying that we are roughly about a month behind in brush. We are in section 4, which is the northwestern corner of town. We are in that and working, when we have 2 crews, we'll be working around our parade preparation and the weather to continue. But in rainy weather, it tends to jam the chipper, and also the longer we are behind, the more brush that seems to come out in front of us. So that combination has put us a little bit behind, but we hope to be done in about two weeks, possibly as long as 3, depending on the weather.
Doug, how do we manage folks that put an excessive amount of brush out? I see areas, there's an area right down here on the Tabernacle Road that's probably 5 times what we say we're going to pick up. How do we manage that with folks? I mean, we say that we have limited resources and we have a policy of how much we'll pick up. And some people follow the policy, which is you have to stack it a certain way and the branches can't be no bigger than a certain size. And then other folks, I mean, clear off the property where they should get a commercial contractor to come in there and take that stuff out. They have so much. So how do we deal with that?
In the past, we tried to talk to the people when we had more than that out, and usually picked up what they had that time and asked them to be cooperative. We've done that a few times this year on some fairly rough piles that have been out there with vines and everything else in. We've talked to them. We accepted it after the June 23rd storm and took pretty much what everybody has out. We're dealing with that again, which we're still getting some of that, and we're hoping that it will get improved by the next spring. But we're still getting a fair amount of debris that people didn't get out over the summer.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else for Doug? Pete?
From you, Mayor, thank you.
At this time, I'm going to reach out to Colonel Lowe in the back row there. Received your email regarding the parade, so we're ready to roll. Looking forward to that. Any report at this time?
We're going to have a parade on Saturday.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Boyd is with us this evening. And Mr. Boyd, come on up. He's got a report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Good word after the break.
Thank you, members of the committee. Mayor and I were speaking the other day, and he had asked me to just give a presentation, just a short overview of what's going on in the department, as well as a short overview of the program that we just purchased. The first 4 pages there are the 4 different programs that we purchased. The first one being specifically for UCC inspections. The second one is for vacant foreclosed property. The third one is the for planning, zoning, etc. And the fourth one is for rent registration and code enforcement. The reason that we needed to move forward was the existing program that we had in the construction office was a DOS-based program designed in approximately 1988. It did not coordinate with any other programs within the township, thus we had some things slipping through the cracks. When we went forward and made this purchase, these 4 programs will communicate with each other. So now anything that comes before the Land Development Board will in fact give us a flag on the construction side of it to know that it either needs approval from the Land Development Board, has approval from the Development Board, and it can go forward, or it has certain restrictions that when we issue the permit, we can go forward with it. If you notice there, the price for each of these programs was $1,800. We were able to negotiate the price for these 4 programs plus the mobile, which included the iPad, for $4,900, I believe it was, for the 4 programs plus the iPad, which gives us mobile capabilities. As an example of mobile capabilities, I was out on an inspection today. I was talking to the homeowner via phone, and he asked me, was there any other inspections while I was out there that we could clean up. I was able to actually go on the iPad. It basically gives me my desktop view when I'm right there, and it's told me nothing else there. So we're able to, as we move forward, we're able to clean up a lot of inspections. The 5th page there, you'll see it's an inspection report of a vacant and abandoned property. We're now able to attach the pictures directly to the report when we send it to the either the entity that is responsible for it. So it cites the code section and then cites the pictures as well. The next page after that, or next 2 pages, excuse me, you'll see page, it is addresses that don't line up with the zip code 08022 for the ownership versus the actual resident. If you notice the first one there, it's coming in that the owner is, and I am on page 1, it would be for screening owner address versus site address.
Excuse me,
Yes,
you mean
ma'am.
088?
088.
022.
22 is mine, I apologize.
I just wanted to be sure, I was a little confused for a moment.
So now we know where you live, Tom.
We're on a roll.
22. We're on a roll with mistakes there. I'm telling you what, actually when I was doing the report tonight, I was putting 22 in and couldn't figure out why I was getting 79 pages, so I finally figured it out. The first one there for the first address, you'll notice that the owner of that residence actually is in Dallas, but yet we have a residence in town. If you go down to the third one, however, you'll see that it's actually a Medford zip code, so we have to eliminate that. The last page, you'll see the specific number of homes that do not match
Excuse me, why would you be eliminating the one with the Medford zip code?
Because they actually are in Tabernacle.
Right, okay.
If you go to the next page
So you're
there.
eliminating it from the report as being an error?
Yes,
Okay.
especially if you go to the next page there, Kim, you'll see the last entry there. I think we can definitively eliminate that individual.
No, I just wanted to make sure why you were eliminating.
Yeah, that's why we're eliminating. All it's doing is taking the mailing address zip code, comparing it to 08088, and making sure that it's lining up. But we have a potential mismatch of 273 residents. So we still have to manually go out and over, but now we have, these we're going out to see if A, if they're vacant and abandoned, or B, if they're rented and they're not registered, so we can cross-reference that. So that's one aspect of the program as well. The next page you'll have there is the inspection logs. As a result of it, we're able to keep much better track of the inspections when we go out. We're trying to clean up a lot of the old inspections. The inspection log from the first 4 months of 2015, and then the next page you'll see the total number for the inspection log for 2016. So approximately 3 times the inspections we're able to do to try to clean some of these up. While we're out at one address, we're actually able to do multiple inspections at that one address. So we've had a lot of folks where I've gone out and said, we have this open, and they've said, no, you don't. We've had an inspection. I've showed them the paperwork. We don't have it. So we're able to keep that going and clean a lot of these inspections up. And then the last thing I gave you there was permits that were issued between the years 2001 through 2005 that have not had either a final inspection performed and or a final certificate, whether it's a certificate of approval or a certificate of occupancy.
I found a mistake already on your report.
This is the cross the T's and dot the I's meeting, if there ever was one.
What's that one, Joe?
I didn't put a 12 by 20 shed on my property.
The application was probably that it was put in for. Is that correct? Did you put an application in for a 12 by 12 shed?
No, I did not. My neighbor did.
Your neighbor did. Which
my neighbor.
Which one are we looking at, Joe? Just so I can.
The inspection log, second page, page 14. He's got 36. It should be 36A.
Then that would be what was put in on the application. This is sort of a computer terminology.
I always get their mail. I always get their deliveries.
And that's
I truly did not put a shed on my property.
the old computer terminology. You go garbage in and garbage out, and it's only put in what was put in. Okay, and this is also referencing the tax records, so that everything I have is now referencing the tax record. So it's cross-referencing that. You cannot hide is right.
If my taxes go up because of a shed.
I am not the tax assessor, sir. That would be Wednesdays from 1 to 6.
He's across the hall.
He's across the hall. I got
That'll be
enough.
another mistake.
I got enough. But if you look at the open items, the last page I gave you folks there, no final subcode inspections, no certificate for the period of 2001 through 2005 inclusive. You'll notice that there's 782 outstanding, either permits and or certificates or something like that. For that particular page, if we look at it, you'll notice that some of them, let's be an example. Well, it is a good example actually. A lot of them are going to be your roofs and your siding. Those are a lot of what we've been working on cleaning up. What we've been doing is straightening up the files so that when I'm on a certain street, the homes in the immediate vicinity of that street are getting inspected as well. So if we have a roof that's quite extensively old, we're going by to make sure the roof is well. Some aspects I have to admit it's hard because some of these roofs are 12, 15 years old to determine if it was new back then or not. So I just write a note on there that, you know, went by, did a visual inspection only, and the period date, so that we're at least closing these things out. Right now, we're trying to work on some open pools. I closed 3 of them today that have been open for several years because of either pool barriers not being compliant or something like that. So with pool season coming upon, that's where we're going with that. That's just an overview of it. We're staying pretty busy. Staying very busy, I lied. We're staying very busy with this, but we're trying to move forward.
Tom, your iPad, are you connected wireless with that, or are you live with that, or is it just a tool that when you come back it downloads? Into
I am live. It's $30 a month for the
Okay,
for the plan. So, in fact, when I spoke with Mr. Lang earlier, he asked me to email during the session. I went and emailed him that information, so I didn't forget it. The other nice thing with the Enforcer program, which is the property maintenance, is I take the pictures right on here and attach them right on here. If I have an individual's email address, I can actually email the violation right from the field, so that they get it. The thing I like about that is I don't have to read my chicken scratch, they can read it. So that there's less discrepancy as to what does this say. So everything's taken up.
I know we have a lot of trees in town, but do you use Google Earth to do comparisons?
We do use Google Earth. So when a person says I didn't do that, and I have Google Earth on here and says, well look at, this is what it says here. Yeah, you did do it. Okay, because it has right there on the date, if you're familiar with Google Earth.
Yes.
It has the date on Google Earth. So let's say their picture was taken in 2010, and they said, well, that roof's been here since I bought the house in 2006. Yeah, it's not because...
There is a feature in Google Earth too, you can go back in time. There's a time scale, you can click on it and you can scale back. Some of them are pretty tough to look at though.
Some of them are tough, and you know, I certainly give folks the benefit of the doubt. I had one today that, in fact, Doug and I looked at, and I went out there today, there's a new roof on there. So, it helps in that, and it also alleviates a lot of the difficulties when you're talking to folks. To say, no, it wasn't, yes it was. Here is the computer, this is what we have on record. The final inspection wasn't done. So, you know, we're getting a lot of phone calls. We're finding some areas where people thought they had final inspections and they didn't, or they had it in one discipline and didn't have it in all the disciplines. And when I'm out there, what I'm trying to do in order to make it easier on the residents is, if I notice there's an outstanding electrical permit, and it's very minor in nature, I'll just do the electrical inspection while I'm there, just to, so we're not sending something back.
Any other comments for Tom?
Any questions?
Nice report, thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming.
That's good.
Next committee, Mr. Barton.
Mayor, yesterday, I'm a member of the Rowan County Military Affairs Committee, which was founded about 28 years ago to hedge off a BRAC closing of Fort Dix at the time. It was started by Congressman Saxton and our county clerk at the time, who's now deceased, Edward Kelly. And I've been on that board for many, many years, and I chair a motorcycle ride. And we do an annual ride from Barb's Harley Davidson to the base. And it's a really interesting ride. We've raised in 10 years almost $500,000, which half goes to the Marine Corps and Law Enforcement Foundation, the other half goes to the Rowan County Military Affairs Committee. And all the funds of the Rowan County Military Affairs Committee supports the base and makes its way back to the base. It's the only ride in America that we actually get a flight line shut down for us a year in advance. And yesterday, Mark Lemire, Kevin Worrell, and probably about 15 other folks from Tabernacle went down to Barb's and joined about 800 other motorcycles. And we rode up to Joint Base and rode the flight line, and we had a nice luncheon there and raised a lot of money for the military. So I thank the residents of Tabernacle that participate, because every year we meet at the diner, and there's more and more bikes every year. So I appreciate everyone's support.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Mr. Franzen?
Just quickly, we're meeting with the third graders on the 31st here as part of their history tour of Tabernacle Township. So the mayor and I will meet with the third graders on Tuesday. That's it.
Mrs. Brown?
Nothing.
Mayor Yates?
Nothing ever.
Got a couple things. I've spent a lot of time walking neighborhoods lately, and I've noticed we have a lot of residents that have chickens. And I think it might be good for us to look into ordinance 5-5.3 to look at where we are in terms of ag animals. There's chickens are becoming domesticated, I guess. He was looking at me like, what are you talking about? In any event, we've got a lot of chickens in town, and I think we ought to at least look at the ordinance a little bit. In any event, that's one tidbit. I attended the school board meeting Monday night over at the middle school, and the Board of Education is considering purchasing a generator to run school number 2, Tabernacle Elementary School, to the tune of roughly $350,000 when it's all said and done. The next day, I met with Dr. Sharon, and we talked about that a little bit, but the one thing we did discuss was that the school enrollment seems to be going down a little bit. And his concept, and he had even discussed this publicly, was that potentially that building could be used for other reasons other than the school, only because they have a lot more space as the enrollment goes down. But during that discussion, we talked about communication between the school board and the township committee. We're both in a representative form here in town. We're both spending taxpayer dollars. It's important to have a good communication between both boards. And it was, I'll give him credit for this, but it was his idea to reinstitute the liaison committee, which would be 3 members from the school board, 2 members of the township committee, to meet on a quarterly basis to talk about events, issues that are going on with the township as well as with the school district, which I thought made a lot of sense. And it gives us a clear conduit between here and the school district. So I've asked Mr. Franz to be part of that committee. And right now he's the only member because I haven't talked to everyone at this point. But I did ask Mr. Franz to be part of this committee, and he accepted. He certainly has spent a lot of time over at the school with his distinguished service on the school board. And I wanted to have an opportunity to talk to the rest of the committee individually off the record regarding this committee, so I will do that another time. But at this point, Mr. Franzen will be serving on that committee. I attended the squad open house Thursday night, and it was a great event. OEM, the OEM office was there, the CERT was there, they had a lot of lights, it was a nice event, and also attended the band concert at the school on Thursday night. Between that and the art show at Seneca, and the other event that was happening at the elementary school, there was a lot going on New Road as well as on Carranza Road on Thursday night. That's all I have. At this point, we are going to open up the meeting for public comment. If you're interested in being heard this evening, please raise your hand. I will call on you. You can come to the center of the room, stand underneath the microphone, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Lemire, you got your hand up already.
Good evening, King Mark Lemire, 32 Washington Way. A couple things. I think earlier mentioned we have a parade coming up this week, so I want to thank everybody here is aware of it. I want to thank everybody who's helping with the preparation for that, but also let everybody or ask everybody in the audience to spread the word. Obviously, looking to get as much participation as we can. Number 2, the sign. I actually parked the trailer there with that rudimentary sign to just raise awareness. We talked about sight lines and so on. I think we convinced ourselves because it was a regular parking spot, it could easily be a van, and therefore it wasn't going to be impede any sight lines any more than a van would have. But if you want to move it from there, if you have any concerns, we can do that as well. So just look at that. And the third thing, June 1st at 7:30, I believe, is our LDB meeting. So just I want to just think about that as you're planning your next event. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the public at this time? Mrs. Brooks?
Oh, no, I've already done so.
Mrs. Brooks?
Oh, okay, no problem.
I think the discussions earlier regarding the bill list items and even the ordinance regarding the road moratorium were actually important discussions because they raised issues. Not anything personal, Mr. Kramer. There's nothing personal here. This is just about making good policy, that's all. And so I think as far as citizens getting more of getting a closer view of questions that are asked and how they get answered is really important. And I mean, Mr. Barton's explanation not only on the road opening issue, but also on the emergency management preparedness conference. It's really important, and it's important for people to hear these discussions. So I just wanted to say that it's good to ask questions, and it's good to get solid answers from people sitting in front of me. The other thing is that I was wondering, Mr. Kramer, were you able to get the LoSAP issue put to rest?
I have emailed the board twice since our last time. I've also left them a phone message. I have yet to get a response from them at this point in time. And I will continue.
DCA?
DCA, the division that handles LoSAP. I have left them, they have a hotline that you can leave them an email address that they ask for questions, and I've asked them that question twice, and I will do it again tomorrow.
Okay. Maybe it would be faster just to file it. In all seriousness, you might, I mean, I've never had problems getting through there, but you just never know, there's so much change.
I went on the website and followed the directions they said for questions, and
well, I would think there'd be somebody there who would respond to an administrator more quickly than to the general public, unfortunately.
I've explained why I'm doing my email, so.
Okay, and because 6 months is a lot of time to go
Yes,
by.
it is. Don't disagree
And
with
not
you.
have this issue of the LoSAP put to rest, because the regulations, when I read the regulations, and they say that you need to provide them within 30, that information. The fire company provides the administrator with or the individual reviewing the LoSAP, and within 30 days it needs to be presented.
And we're caught in a catch-21 on they can't provide me with a solid group of information that I can review because we don't have that ordinance in here to say which set of point system, and it'll make a difference probably to some of the members, whether they qualify or don't. So
okay, well,
we will continue to work on it, and hopefully we'll have this answer for you by the June meeting.
Well, that's optimistic. I hope so. Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the public this time? Yes, sir.
Oh, there it is. Jim Jones, 60 Moment Way. I'm here kind of with a split personality tonight. It's being unusual. Wellington County Radio Club is holding a field day Saturday and Sunday over at the OEM. Besides a letter that I sent out to the committee, I want to make sure we've got personal invitation to come over and take a look and see what we're up to with Colonel Lowe and CERT and whoever else might be around it. Would demonstrate the emergency communications capability over and above what exists right now. There are a lot of us in the area there, the radio guys, and in the event of an emergency where maybe communications went down to the county, which has happened in the past, or cell tower or something like that goes down to the club, and the individuals in the club brought into the OEM set up and provide that communications. So the training exercise for us, a feel comfortable exercise with CERT and the other entities that are in the building. They wander in and out, they wander in and out a little bit. Anyway, from 2 p.m. Saturday until 2 p.m. Sunday, we'll be on the air. And if any of you have any desires to try amateur radio, feel free, we'll put a mic in your hand. You can't do anything wrong if you don't have a license, because the guy with the license standing behind you is going to take the heat. So it happens. I know, because I've received the heat. Anyway, it's there. Would enjoy anybody coming over. I know Mrs. Brown and Mayor Lee were there last year, and I appreciated that because it helped sell the program. Now I'm on the other personality. I was looking at a video of a previous meeting, and I think Mr. Cooper, I don't think he's here tonight.
Yes,
yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you because the video only was from the side. I got the impression from his conversation that he was thinking the township funded the school district. And that's not true. You're only acting as a collector of taxes like you do for the county, the library, the open spaces, and as a bank, then you write the checks for the balance. It's their money, it's not being funded by the township. And if I'm wrong on that, please correct me. I believe I'm right. And the reason I say that is that if people come here and start beating you up on school taxes, you're beating up on the wrong people. And I say that knowing my daughter's on the Board of Education. So you keep them up if you've got problems with the school thing. Now, the other problem with that is that I understand, as you said, you visit DOE in the past meeting, you made a comment about coordinating on the generator.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
You made a comment about talking to the township on the generator. I don't remember I didn't hear the exact words. I wasn't there. Somebody told me about it. That was not my daughter. But anyway, the suggestion was that they talk to you guys about coordination or...
I'll be clear. Are you trying to figure out what I said at a school board meeting?
No, I think I know what you said.
Okay.
And that was that the Board of Education should talk to the township and coordinate the effort if they're going to purchase a portable or a standby generator because it's tax money. And I'm going to take you to task on that because I'm pretty sure they know it's tax money and the tax increases hurt everybody. And I know some of us on fixed incomes don't like them, and we'll beat up on them too. But if you want to do that, you have to do that as a private citizen.
Well, let's backtrack a second. Do you have any other comments?
I was also going to make a comment about you're running into the other two mayors, and that I understand.
The other three what?
The two mayors that you met down in Chemung started talking about combining school districts. And I don't think that's a topic for the township to take on. I think that's the Board of Education's to take on. And I say that because they're the ones with the history that know that when there wasn't talk of doing that before, the major issue is that it was going to end up costing Tabernacle more, and we could end up with our kids out in Pemberton. And I didn't like that idea. So I would think that I would leave the business of education to the educators, and please not, go in as a private citizen, that's fine. Take an exception to you personally saying, I'm effectively Mayor Lee, and you're putting no oil in that water. Me, I would go over that, hey, I'm Steve Lee, I live in this town, I've lived here for 49 million years, my family's been here forever, and I think I'm hearing some of the same stuff. Why don't you, or can you guys start thinking about a declining enrollment and how that might work with maybe combining some other with some other districts. And the bottom line on that is, and this is going to get me in a hell of a lot of trouble, but I think it was political.
Thank you for your comments.
And I'm sure you disagree with it, but I'm allowed to make those comments, and you're allowed to respond, and I would understand it if you
Well,
didn't like it.
I will actually. Just to be clear, and you weren't at the meeting I attended.
I know.
So it's very hard for you to really understand what I said, but I will be very clear with
I
this.
wasn't there because I was babysitting my child for my 9-month
Okay.
grandson.
If it's
your
my
turn.
turn. It's my turn to talk.
Yes, it is.
What I had said was I went up and actually thanked the board for having the discussion about the generator. The other thing I said was that we are always here as a resource to have discussions about infrastructure and any kind of capital purchases. And I thank them for having the discussion. And I essentially extended an olive branch to the Board of Education as the mayor, which is my duty to essentially generate dialogue with them and thank them for their service. On behalf of the mayor and my committee, our committee, it's important to have those relationships. It's important for, as the mayor, and every single person sitting up here has been the mayor at one point or another. Regardless of whether we have oversight over that budget, guess what? Residents come to us and they complain about everything from the school tax to what the school's doing. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So I appreciate your comments. But I will tell you, Mr. Jones, we take this job very seriously and very personally. And specifically, I think it's my responsibility, our responsibility, it's our responsibility to do whatever we can to be able to make this a great place to live. And I think it's important to have the dialogue with the school. It's important to have this committee with Dr. Sherry. It's something that we did in 2000 when he was here. It's important for us to communicate and work together as a team, because the school board as well as the township committee both have a tremendous responsibility. They have tremendous passion for this community. And I applaud anyone that sits on that board, anyone that sits on this board. But it's our responsibility, whether you believe it's my responsibility or not, Mr. Jones. It is my responsibility.
We can have a difference of opinion.
Thank you.
But I would applaud you.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
I would applaud you on the liaison committee. It's not all just bad news. There is good news. I think that's great. And I do applaud that. I hope it works.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time? Stephen, go ahead.
Steve Kramer, 1000 Old Indian Mills Road. I just want to thank the committee for approving that resolution after the ad nauseam discussion about the signs. We get the message loud and clear. We will work very hard next year to get that done months in advance so we can have the opportunity over several meetings to get that approved. It did highlight their effectiveness for us. We appreciate that because it tells us that they were a good purchase. Obviously, people saw them. We saw that over there on Thursday with as many people who showed up. Most importantly, we had 11 car seats come through. The Burlington County Sheriff's Department came out and did a car seat check, so there are 11 families that have safer car seats in their car, and we were happy to provide that avenue for them and the other county and township resources that came out and showed off their wares and their experience. We hope that the people, we invited more, not everybody was able to make it. We hope that they can all make it next year and that the event is even better attended and we'll get those signs up even sooner with approval so that they can do their job. Thank you.
Jason? Thank you, Stephen.
Hi, Jason Lindo with Side Porch Report. Just with all the talk on the sign ordinance, I just wanted to point out, I have actually read through that in detail recently. There are a lot of contradictions, vagaries, unclear bits, so to go through it would be a good effort, and I would applaud that. But I would caution you to take care and think about the long-term ramifications of any suggestions that come out from that. I speak specifically about, I've read various news articles about various towns throughout the state that have looked to restrict where various signs, and not just political signs, but all sorts of temporary signs can be placed. And what they found is, especially during election seasons, and especially with this November being presidential election season, they found that the few designated areas that were allowed to have signs ended up becoming basically sign forests. They were useless, they were problematic, they were detrimental to everybody, so just keep that in mind if you go through that exercise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Any other comments from the public at this time?
I made a mistake. It's not this Saturday and Sunday, it's the last Saturday and Sunday in June for that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I had obviously had
That's
something
okay.
in mind.
We got the letter.
I'm sorry.
We got the letter. Seeing none, we'll close the public at this time. We are going to go into executive session to discuss the contract, as we mentioned earlier. I am going to make a comment regarding this. Whereas the governing body wishes to discuss contract negotiations with Tabernacle Rescue Squad pursuant to NJSA 10.4.12b7. This matter will be discussed in a closed session from which the public shall be excluded. There's a possibility we could be taking action on this after this discussion. So I would suggest you stick around if you'd like to hear that. I will also say that I'm very pleased that we are discussing this contract. This contract was one of the key pieces of the emergency service report that Joe and I had produced. The squad had come and sat down with myself, as I mentioned beforehand, and Pete and Doug, and I'm very pleased with what Pete had produced. I'm anxious to talk about it with my colleagues. This is a huge step, I think, in the direction of healing with our emergency squad and our community and the fire company. I think this is a huge step, and I'm very pleased that this is an avenue that we're beginning to travel down. The work that's gone into this is pretty extensive, and I really want to again thank the squad for meeting with us and getting this put together. This is going back to their executive board, I believe, and we are going to talk about it this evening. But I'm very excited to be discussing this, because this is, in my personal opinion, I think that it's very important to have this put together so our emergency service personnel, our first responders, can focus on doing exactly what they need to do. and not be sidelined by politics, because this has clearly become a political issue in our town. It's divided our town. It's unfortunate it's divided our town. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the very first step in healing our community and getting this done. And it's been because of the squad, and it's because of our township committee leadership that's been able to get it accomplished. At this time, I need a motion to go into executive session, please.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we not go into executive session, that we discuss this in public. We have a draft document in front of us that was presented by our attorney. It's not a big discussion from what I can see, and if we're going to take action after the executive session, it gives the public an opportunity to hear what we're discussing and gives them an opportunity to comment before we do adopt this, if we are to adopt that tonight. I wasn't anticipating adopting this tonight when I saw this, but if we want to go that far, I think the public should have a shot at this.
I'd ask for a motion, and Mr. Barton is, I guess you're making a motion at this point, the table.
Yeah, I make a motion that we not go into executive session and discuss it right here and now.
Okay.
Well, no motion's necessary. You have to make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Negative.
4-1.
Nice boots.
Thank you, yeah, it's comfortable.
You wear those when you guys do.
No, I don't, you can tell because they're not scarred up.
I don't know if Megan's done, so
They scarred up there.
in my house and pick up my own. If Megan's done, I can obviously go home to the for up
We're on Saturday, we said that they showed in the weather. 85 degrees. It's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna be beautiful.
That would make sense. Why don't I come home?
The colors, the guys carrying them, get the misting fields.
Well, you know what?
Oh, super, congratulations. So we're all set?
I want to
Doug earlier, I said, I said Thursday, we'll work with him. I gotta get, make sure we got all the players, make sure I know who's gonna be there, who's gonna talk, and that kind of thing.
I'm going to sit down in public works.
That is yours.
You park last in the...
Just wanna say what's up.
I didn't know if it was you. And I got like halfway across.
I had to do the baseball, the softball, and the lacrosse, so we did a watch matter of using it, getting used to it. Oh yeah, well you like it. Taking the kids always, one of these years. How are you?